To say that Battlefield 6 has been a success for DICE and EA would be a severe understatement. In fact, this is the biggest game launch that the franchise has ever seen. Within its first 3 days, Battlefield 6 sold more than 7 million copies and at one point had more than 700,000 concurrent players on Steam alone. That is the 14th highest concurrent player peak that Steam has ever seen. With all that in mind, this is easily the most impressive and stable a Battlefield game has ever been at launch.
Are you fucking serious? No, okay. No, fuck off.
After a decade of inconsistency, DICE has finally got their shit together and delivered one of the few AAA games in recent memory that has been worth the $70 price tag. Whether it be longtime fans of the Battlefield series, or Call of Duty veterans finally switching sides, majority of those who have given the game a chance have completely fallen in love with it, yet despite that, the game is far from perfect. Battlefield 6 met all the expectations I had for it before its release, yet it hasn't exceeded any of them, and I'm sure many of you watching will feel the same way. People have pointed out plenty of issues, from the inconsistent weapon bloom, to the progression that moves at a snail's pace, the maps which are noticeably smaller than previous games, the lack of commands and responsibility for squad leaders, and much more. Nearly all of these complaints are completely valid, and thankfully DICE has already come forward and addressed many of them. However, there is one glaring flaw that not nearly enough people are talking about. There is a game mode that used to be a staple of the Battlefield franchise throughout the 2010s, and after it was missing from the 2 previous games, Battlefield 6 has suddenly brought it back. Yet, disappointingly, it has either been rushed out or lazily put together by people who don't fully understand it, because it suffers from multiple issues and inconsistencies that just weren't present in previous games. I'm not referring to Conquest, Rush, or Breakthrough, I'm talking about Hardcore mode. Hardcore mode is a set of gameplay rules and options that intends to make Battlefield a more challenging and realistic experience. The first ever entry to include it was Bad Company 2 all the way back in 2010, and with it, DICE established the core principles that would remain the same in the following games. In Hardcore mode, the player's HUD is completely stripped, removing the minimap, crosshairs, and the display for your guns, gadgets, ammo, and grenades. The spotting mechanic is severely reduced as well, no longer marking opposing players with an indicator above their head, as their location is only revealed on the large map overlay that has to be manually pulled out. Player health is also reduced to 60%, and it no longer automatically regenerates either. Instead, players have to fully rely on medics dishing out heals in order to get their health back up. Furthermore, the player's perspective is locked behind the eyes of their character, which is a fancy way of saying that the third-person view for vehicles is removed, and so are kill cams, meaning you are not shown the location of the person who killed you. Finally, friendly fire is turned on, meaning you can kill your own teammates by either shooting them, running them over, or blowing up their vehicle with your own landmines. Any of the game modes in Battlefield, from Team Deathmatch to Domination, Breakthrough, and of course Conquest, can be played in Hardcore mode. And even though it's only a small list of changes, as you can probably determine for yourself, it completely changes the way you play Battlefield. The most consequential change in this game mode has to be the reduction of player health to 60%, which not only has psychological effects on player behavior, it completely alters the gunplay. Now all it takes is 2 to 3 body shots with most guns to bring someone down, with everything other than pistols being able to kill players with a single headshot. So if you want any chance of surviving for at least a few minutes, you have to approach the game in a completely different way. No longer can players just run around and play recklessly. Instead, you have to use both cover and concealment while also moving methodically and tactically around each map. Additionally, since player health no longer automatically regenerates, teamwork among squad members isn't just more common in Hardcore, it's essential for teams to win the game.
Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it.
Battlefield is already one of the more immersive multiplayer shooters, at least when comparing it to games that are mainstream, but Hardcore mode completely elevates the formula. Matches will still be epic and filled with moments that are only possible in a game like Battlefield, but now you can't just play on autopilot anymore. If you want to be a good player, you have to lock in and absorb as much visual and auditorial information as you possibly can in order to make critical decisions. After Bad Company 2, Hardcore mode returned in Battlefield 3 and ultimately reached its peak in popularity with Battlefield 4. Today, even after the release of Battlefield 6, Hardcore servers in Battlefield 4 are still active and highly populated. However, as I've mentioned already, this game mode slowly disappeared from the series, being excluded from Battlefield 5 and 2042, but it has finally come back in Battlefield 6. Within the first few days of its release, players could scroll down to the bottom of the main menu in Battlefield 6 and find Hardcore Conquest under Community Experiences. Initially, this mode looked and felt a lot like the Hardcore mode from previous games. Player health was reduced to 60%, hit markers were removed, friendly fire was enabled, and the HUD was completely stripped down. However, it did not take players long to find multiple issues that make this version feel like a lazy copy of previous incarnations. One of the first discrepancies that players noticed was with the display for your weapons, gadgets, and ammo. At first, it's not shown, which is how it's supposed to be in Hardcore, but for some reason, whenever you pull out a new weapon or change the firing mode of your gun, the heads-up display pops up for a few seconds, showing how much ammo is in your magazine and how many bullets are currently on your person. Like the previous versions of Hardcore mode, the one in Battlefield 6 removes the crosshairs for infantry players, but this unintentionally removes the aiming reticles from jets and tanks, which doesn't make any sense at all and just wasn't present in previous games. Also, something I haven't seen others mention is that while hit markers have been removed, there is still an audio cue that happens every time you land a shot on another player, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of removing hit markers. Despite Hardcore Conquest feeling like it was thrown together and rushed before its release, it was still my preferred way to play Battlefield 6. Due to lower health and the removal of HUD elements, the pacing of the game in Hardcore mode is significantly reduced, making the smaller sizes of the maps not nearly as noticeable. Additionally, the game's graphics and visual details some of the best in the industry, and paired with the refined controls, Hardcore mode in Battlefield 6 is one of the most immersive experiences I've had in a long time. But notice how I've been talking in past tense, because after only a few days, Hardcore Conquest was replaced with Hardcore Breakthrough. That's not a problem, right? I mean, Breakthrough is a fun and tactical game mode that would be incredibly immersive in Hardcore, but unfortunately, to the disappointment of many, this new game mode is not Hardcore at all, as all the HUD elements are fully intact, from the minimap to the crosshairs and the weapons display. Maybe player health was lowered, and maybe friendly fire was turned on, but I'll be honest, as soon as I loaded into a game, I quit right away. While very annoying, this isn't the end of the world, as Battlefield 6 does have a server browser where several players are constantly hosting Hardcore servers. However, there is no consistency among them. Some servers show the names of your squad mates in the bottom left corner, others don't. Some allow you to spawn on any member of your squad when previous Hardcore modes only let you spawn on your squad leader. And some Hardcore servers only lower player health while retaining all of the HUD elements, which creates a severe balancing issue. All of this is to say that Hardcore mode needs to be taken more seriously, specifically from the player base themselves if there's any chance of DICE noticing. So who better than me, somebody with less than 700 subscribers, to represent the Hardcore community and make some serious demands? At the bare minimum, Hardcore mode needs to be a featured game mode curated by DICE themselves, not left up to the community and Portal. And with DICE taking over the game mode, they need to fix the issues I mentioned earlier, like vehicle crosshairs, the weapons display, and the audio cue that acts as a hit marker. Additionally, I would love it if they returned to the realistic reloading that was present in Battlefield 4. In that game, whenever you reload your gun, you would lose any bullets left in the magazine instead of them being recycled into your total ammunition. Now moving on, I would prefer if there were two different playlists for Hardcore. One for all-out warfare matches of Conquest, Breakthrough, and Escalation, and then another one for smaller game modes like Team Deathmatch, King of the Hill, and Domination. But I understand if this is asking for a lot, so at the bare minimum, there should just be a Hardcore all-out warfare playlist. Everything I've said so far is the least that DICE can do, as all of these fixes and updates would put the Battlefield 6 Hardcore experience on par with the one found in Battlefield 4. But there are still more changes that DICE can implement to further improve the game mode. For more than a decade, Hardcore players have been asking for a magazine counter to be added in the bottom right corner just so they can know how many more magazines they have left. This is not a huge demand by any means. We're not asking for reloading to be completely reworked, we just want to know how many magazines we are carrying. Maybe this is a hot take, but I would prefer it if the game did not confirm your kills for you with a pop-up notification. It's not like it takes me out of the experience, it would just be way more immersive if I had to rely on my own judgment instead of the game telling me whenever I kill somebody. On top of that, it would slow the pacing down even more, further separating the hardcore game mode from the traditional multiplayer. The only other changes I can think of that would improve hardcore aren't for the game mode specifically, but for Battlefield 6 as a whole. You know, improving the squad leader role by giving them more ways to affect the outcome of the game, adding dynamic weather as well as a day and night cycle, and so on. I fully understand that Battlefield is not intended to be a milsim experience. Yes, it's 100% more tactical than Call of Duty, but it's far less grounded than games like Squad, Arma, or Hell Let Loose, but that doesn't mean DICE shouldn't care about hardcore mode. I know that their focus up to this point has been to satisfy longtime Battlefield fans, while also stealing away a portion of COD's player base, which they have both done successfully, and soon enough, they're going to put their hands in the Battle Royale cookie jar. But if the Battlefield 4 community has anything to teach us, there are hundreds, if not thousands of players out there willing to be loyal to a grounded and immersive experience that Battlefield 6 has the potential to provide. But as of now, there are multiple fixes that need to happen, and even more additions that can be tacked on in order to create the most accessible, realistic military shooter experience. At the moment, there is not nearly enough people talking about hardcore mode in order to get the attention of DICE, and if there's any chance of them noticing, it all starts with you who are watching. If you want hardcore mode to be taken more seriously, go ahead and like the video, comment, and share it with a friend. Are there any additions to hardcore mode that you want to see that I haven't mentioned in this video? Go ahead and leave it in the comments. If you enjoyed the video I put together and you're not already subscribed, please consider doing so. My name's Contrarian Jay, and I'm aiming to post 2 videos every month just like this one. I also started streaming on the channel, which I did take a break from in order to make this video, but going forward I'll be streaming Battlefield 6 at least once a week. Finally, let me announce the Discord that I made for the channel, which I will also be using as a looking for group specifically for the hardcore mode in Battlefield 6 and Battlefield 4. Battlefield 4 still holds up incredibly well today, especially the hardcore mode, and while I don't think the community will die anytime soon, I wanted to do everything in my power to keep it alive and running. I also need an excuse to spend $40 to unlock all the weapons, attachments, and gadgets for that game, so if anyone wants to make that happen, go look for the Discord link in the description. And with that, this video is finished. I hope to see you all in my next video where I compare and contrast the original Black Ops and Modern Warfare trilogies to answer the question we are all wondering: which sub-series is better?